crafters, thank you for joining me here in the attic. So pull up a chair, grab your favorite beverage, and we'll get to crafting and memory keeping. Today we're going to be doing another event for the summer block party hosted by the Paper Bee Creative on Facebook in her Facebook group. I will leave the link to her Facebook group down in the description box. So please head over there if you would like to grab some of these freebies. There's 2 freebies that come out each week. The designers that will be giving away freebies throughout this event are Card Times Ahead, Lost Treasured Designs, the Paper Bee, Ink and Page, Petals and Parchment, and Wildflower Publishing. So I hope you'll come over and join us in the Facebook group to join in on the challenges and grab the freebies and share all the things that you make. We'd love to see them. Today we're working with a freebie that was from Lost Treasured Design. It's a beautiful purple folio kit full of lilacs. And if you've been here before, you probably know my favorite color is purple, so I absolutely wanted to do this kit. It's got a beautiful folio base that I've printed a background paper on the back. There are instructions of how to put this together, but we are going to walk through this as a tutorial today. There are a few different design ways that you can put this together, and again, you can always adjust and create and let your creativity guide you, and you do not have to do it like everybody else is doing it. In the kit, there are panels that would fit in the blank spaces, and there are a few different options. That's one set. There's another option here. I think the first thing I want to do is go ahead and see exactly what I'm going to be working with. I've picked out some distress ink. I think I want to distress the edges of this in a Dusty Concord. I also might want to play around with some of the Distress Spritz Wilted Violet. And I broke out the texture paste from Tim Holtz, the black opaque, that I might do some stenciling with. I just want to do a little creative play today, so I have no hard and fast rules for what I want to do. The first thing I want to do here is ink up my edges on the folio itself, score my score lines, and then go ahead and glue this together. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of music here as I do that. Now that I've got the main part of the folio inked up, I want to go ahead and attach these panels together so that I can then start decorating, but we'll be able to see exactly how it's going to look. There's one area I didn't quite get. I want to get that. Okay. The designer has given you instructions here about how to attach the pages and where to attach them. I always like to just line my stuff up to make sure I know exactly how I'm attaching it, make sure I don't need to change anything by the way I trimmed something, it's not going to fit or something before I actually put glue on it. I most of the time prefer to use wet glue. You can use wet glue here, you can use glue stick, you can use double stick tape, whatever works best for you. Most of the time it gives the same results when it's just paper to paper. I go ahead and line my edge up there and then start lining it up with the fold. You want to make sure you don't go over the fold line when you're gluing this down. And then once I get it glued down, I like to burnish a little bit just to give good contact with the glue and the paper on both sides. Just take a look, make sure I don't need to change anything there. And now I think I'm going to decide what panels I want to put where. I think for mine, I like the lilac branches there. I think I like this door better. Again, this is all a personal preference. The way he's designed this, you could put these panels in either place, but I think that's all. I'm going to lay that out. I want to go ahead and ink these edges up and get these glued down. Now that I've got that glued down, I want to just take a look and see exactly how I plan on putting the folder together. Could be like that. Could do it like this. I think it's probably going to go like that with my door being on the back here. Flat being here. So this will be my inside. I think what I also want to do is create another flap here. I have thought about that. Because I could glue these together where they're back to back and attach that here. And I could either make this a pocket like this with another pocket on the other side like that, or I could glue them together and make it a flip out. As I said earlier, I don't have any hard and fast rules on anything I'm doing here. I haven't really thought this out or planned this project through. I just wanted to kind of do a little bit of creative play and see what I could come up with. I think I like the idea of gluing it like a pocket here on each flap. So I'm going to go ahead and get that inked up and get that glued down. As I was applying the glue there, I did think about the possibility I could have just done this as a tuck spot and not glued here, the top and the bottom, just glued here, and I would have been able to put larger pieces in this area just as a tuck spot. I think this is going to be okay. I don't think I'll put anything super large in there, but that is an option. If you wanted to put bigger pieces of ephemera or paper in here, you could not glue the top and the bottom and just glue the side, and it'd be a tuck spot. Kind of like that, but go all the way through. I could still do it here, but I think I am going to just continue with the pocket idea. This is just one of the freebies that Lost Treasured Designs gave us this week. There is another one. I will do another video later on this week showing that freebie kit. But you can go ahead over to the Facebook group and grab both freebies. Again, the event we're working with is the Summer Block Party from the Paper Bee, and it is in her Facebook group. Alright, I like that. Alright, now let's decide what we want to do here. Trying to decide, do I want to put any of the other embellishments that were technically extra, but I could put them in here. I could actually do this like it's a pocket here. Very similar to the way I did that. I am considering cutting this design and making a pocket here, but cutting it to where you still have the image that you see, but it still be a pocket. I think I'm going to do that. I think I want to do maybe about a 3-inch pocket. I'm just going to get my little trimmer. Cut that to where that will be a image, but it'll also be like a hidden pocket. Yeah, I like that idea. And I think I am going to make this a pocket. I think for this, I want to make stacked pockets there. And I think I'm going to add some texture paste behind here and play with that a little bit. Alright, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put my texture paste down, I think. I think I like that design there with the black textures paste. I think that'll look good. With my texture paste, I just use some press and seal over my jar. That way that keeps out some of the excess air and hopefully keeps it from drying up as fast, since I don't use it as often as I probably should. With the texture paste, you just put it on a spatula, hold your stencil down. You could tape your stencil down if you don't feel like you could hold it. But hold your stencil down, and you just want to apply some of the paste and kind of push it down into the stencil, and then drag your spatula back over the stencil to pick up the extra paste that's still there. And you can do as much of the stencil as you want to, or as little of the stencil. It's okay if it's not the complete stencil. I like the random look. And what I like to do is when I'm getting ready to lift the stencil, I'll hold one side and lift up, make sure I like the design before I completely pull it off. That way if I needed to put a little bit more down, I could still do that. When I get through with my texture paste, I try to take my press and seal and push it back down to where it touches the paste. That way it's not trapping in air. Get a good seal back on that. and just tighten my lid back down. And hopefully that will allow me to use that longer than if it got air in it and dried out a lot. I'm going to go ahead and ink these other pieces up while that's drying, and then we'll come back and glue these things down. While that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and glue these pieces down. And I am doing this as a pocket, so I'm not putting glue in the middle and I'm not putting it on that long edge. I'll glue this one completely down since it is just the picture part of the top of the pocket. I'll go ahead and put my pocket where I think it should go. That way I get it kind of lined up while I'm gluing it. Remember, don't go over your fold lines where your folio is, otherwise your folio won't open and close correctly. And then I'll just glue the 3 sides and not the top so that that will be a hidden pocket. That lined back up with the image. I want to just look to see how I want to do this. I'm going to be careful not to touch my texture paste because that's not dry yet. But I think overall I kind of want it to look like that. And I'll come back and do that when this texture paste is dry. So I'm going to pause the video for a few minutes, let that texture paste dry, and then we'll come back and add our pockets. Alright, now that our texture paste is dry, I had forgotten about these as an option, because I'm also going to put in some pages to where I'll have like a little mini booklet pages that I can put some things on. So I'm trying to decide if I want to put that there, but I think I'm going to stick with the triangular pockets and possibly put those other pockets on my little mini book. So when I'm laying out something that's doubled like this, a lot of times what I will do is lay it out the way I want it to look. And before I glue it, so that I get it in the right place, I will mark where my pieces go, and then I can come back and erase these marks once I get it all glued down. I think with this one, I'm going to leave the bottom open. That way if I have a larger item that I want to tuck in here, it can go all the way to the bottom to where this has a false bottom. So I'm only going to glue on the 2 sides. Find my marks. Might not be easy to see on camera, but I can see them. Get that lined up. Gotta make sure it's straight. For this one, we will glue both sides and the bottom. Alright, I'm liking how that's looking. So this is what we've got so far. This folds in there, and that folds that for our little folio. Since we do have a little spine, like I said, I'm going to put some little paper there to make like little mini pages So I need to do some measurements to make sure I'm cutting my paper. So my paper, this measures at 8 1/4, so I think I'm going to make my paper 8 tall. And then from fold to fold, it measures 5 1/2. 5 1/2 would still give me a little bit of room. So I think if I leave my paper and just fold it in half, because my paper is 11, that should be okay. But I'll get that folded and we'll check it out. Alright, I've cut my pages to where they're 8 inches tall. So that gives me room to where it doesn't stick outside of the folio. I actually think I am going to score it because I am using a little bit of a heavier stock here since this just is a little folio. I've used 80-pound paper. And since it's 11, I'm going to score it 5 1/2. And again at 5 1/2. And once I get both of these folded, if I think it is still too big, I can always come back and trim the edge a little bit. But let me see how I think I like that. Because I'm going to sew these in. They're just going to be 2-page signatures. So it's technically 2 pages, front and back would give me 4 sections to work with for decorating. And I think that is going to be fine. Alright, so I'm going to sew 1 in here and then 1 in here. And then that will fold that way. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead since I'm going to sew this in, I want to go ahead and poke my holes to sew. I'm just going to do a 3-hole pamphlet stitch here. So since it's 8, I'm going to go 4. And then I'm going to come in an inch. And come in an inch. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. And I will make these holes a little bit bigger once I get them initially started. Just going to get that in the middle of that spine where I want that. Again, I'm going to do it in the middle at 4. Come down an inch from the top and come in an inch from the bottom. And I'm just going to make these a little bit bigger so that when I get ready to sew, my needle won't have trouble going through. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and ink these pages up before I sew them in. They'll be easier to ink that way. Inking those, I decided that I wanted to do something. I wanted to play around with that distress spritz. I had did that in another project, and I really liked the effect it had when I was doing the technique where you put it down on a mat, add some water, and then just press your paper down into that. So I think I want to try that because it gave a beautiful marbled look. So I want to do that before I sew these in. For the distress spritz, it does have like a mica in the bottom of it, so you want to make sure it's shaken up well to get that mica moving. You can hear the ball moving around in there. If you don't hear that moving, you know it's definitely not mixed up well. And you kind of want to just look at the bottom of your bottle and see if the mica is still stuck to that bottom. If it is, you just need to keep shaking it a little bit more because it's not completely mixed up well. I think that's better. Alright. Before, when I did this, I had sprayed directly on my papers and it gave a pretty spritz and did do the shimmer. But then I went back with my extra overspray and added some water to it and did that technique to see what it would look like, and it gave a beautiful marbled effect. So I want to see if I can recreate that in this project. So I'm going to just put some spritzes down instead of it being overspray this time. And I'm going to just add some water. Alright, and the way I did this before is I just went in, and like I said, this is just creative play. We get what we get and we don't pitch a fit. It's my favorite saying from Tim Holtz. And then I'm going to get my heat tool and dry that. I don't know if you can see this in the camera well, but this gives a beautiful sheen from that spritz. And it gives a marbled effect. Try to turn it a couple of different ways and hope that captures on the camera. I think I'm going to go ahead and do the other side just like that because I absolutely love the way that turns out. Go ahead and add a little more spray. A little bit more water. You can give some bigger droplets of water if you want to. Give a couple more spritz, and I'm going to do the other page. I really like how this is coming out. I do think I want to try, I've got some of this same spritz in a walnut stain. I think I want to try doing another layer with that under here and see if I can get a little bit more vintage look. I like the way that came out. The walnut stain did give it a more grungy, aged look, but it still has that shine and shimmer to it, so I do like that. You can see it a little bit more on the one that's purple. I'm going to let these completely dry. I dried them with the heat tool, but they're still a little bit damp. So I want to let those completely dry before I sew those signatures in. Alright, these have now dried. I'm pleased with the overall look I got with these. I don't know if you can see the shimmer on the camera or not, but I like the marbling effect that it gave. I will say you can't really see the shimmer until it dries. So if you start spraying and you think, oh, it's not turning out the way you wanted it to, that it doesn't have the shimmer you wanted, do let it completely dry, because that shimmer does come as it dries. I'm going to go ahead and get these sewn in. I'm going to be using some purple embroidery floss. What I normally do is when I'm doing a 3-hole pamphlet stitch, I measure 4 lengths of thread to my journal. That generally gives me some extra in case I want to tie off a dangle or anything like that. Since I'm going to be doing 2 signatures here, I want to go ahead and cut both of my threads. You could use the waxed linen thread like for bookbinding, but for something just as simple as this little 1-page folio that I'm doing, I don't think that's necessary, so I'm just going to use the embroidery floss. What I do is I start in the middle, so let me decide which page I want to go where. Make sure I've got it right side up. I have been known to sew something in upside down. But I'll start in the middle, and I like to sew mine to where my extra thread dangles in the middle. Some people will start from the back and it'll dangle on the spine, but I prefer it in the middle, but you can do it either way. So I start in the middle and go ahead and line my hole up with the needle. Don't pull it all the way through, just pull it past your extra thread there. Then go up to your top hole. Thread it there. Thread it through your top hole of your signature. And you would do this the same way if you were doing multiple papers. Normally if I'm doing multiple papers, I will clip this in so that none of my papers move around. But since it is just the 1 page and the folio, I don't have to do that. So that you'll come to the bottom hole, get that through, and then come to your bottom hole of your folio. Again, I pull it until that end of that second thread is out. Now you want to come back through the middle one again. When you're doing this, you want to be careful to not split your threads, because if you split your threads, you won't be able to tighten the signature end. So just be careful, don't split the threads. And what I mean by splitting the thread is don't go take your needle right through the thread just like I just did there. Since it is just the 2-hole here, and I only caught just a little bit of it, I can clip this, but I wouldn't normally do that if I was sewing in a really heavy signature with multiple pages, because I want it to be as strong as possible. And once you've got it in, I adjust my threads to where I get them even. A little bit more, not much. And then I'll pull it. Don't pull it too tight because you'll tear your paper, but pull it a little bit to where it makes it tight, and then I do a square knot. Square knot basically is you take your right thread over your left thread, form a cross, and then through, like if you were tying your shoestring, and then pull down. So it was right over left, and then left over right to make your cross. And then that's your square knot. And normally I will do it once or twice. For this one, I'm only going to do it once because this 1 page in here, I don't think I need to do it more than once. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do this next one. So again, go through the middle and the middle here. Then go to the back and go to the bottom. Here I went to the bottom this time. A while ago I went to the top. Doesn't matter with the 3-hole pamphlet stitch. You can do either one, top or bottom. Makes no difference which you do first. Then go to the top. Go back through your folio hole there. And then you're going to go back through the middle again. And again, be careful trying not to split your thread. I'm going to try not to split it this time and not have to clip it. And I'll show you what I do sometimes. It's a little hard with this pamphlet, this folio, because I didn't clip everything down. What I'll normally do is stick my needle through my hole and hold this thread over to one side as I'm going into the hole of the signatures, and that generally will keep me from splitting it. And you just want it on each side of the center thread. Again, I'm going to adjust my thread till I get them the same length. Tighten it up. Don't tighten too tight. You'll tear your paper. And let's see if I can do this a little better this time. You go right over left to form your cross. See that? And then through the hole. Pull it tight. And then left over right to form your cross. Pull it through and tighten it down. And now you've got the 3-hole pamphlet stitch. You've got both of these sewed into your folio. To where this is what your spine looks like. And this is what your folio looks like. For my folio, I want it to close here, here, send that over there, and then close that way so that my paper is inside and not outside of the folio. So you just want to tuck that in and make sure your flap isn't over when you're closing it up. I don't know what kind of closure I want to do here. I should have thought about this and done a magnetic closure before I put these down. But I think I may come back and just make me a sliding belly band closure, and I'll show you how to do that since it's not a super big folio. That's not a hard thing to do, and that would be a good project. Again, didn't have any hard and fast rules with this. I was just doing some creative play to see what I could come up with. This is where I will end for part 1 of the tutorial. I hope you've enjoyed spending time here in the attic. I would love for you to leave a comment and click the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you would like to be notified when I put up part 2 of this tutorial, be sure to ring the notification bell. And until next time, y'all take care.